I have booked my next Disney World trip. I'm going in 2025, just a little over a year from now. I'm so excited. Finally, the countdown can begin and I'm in like the planning phases, which I love. I love planning a Disney trip. I am taking you on the planning journey with me. I'm so excited. I am going to show you how to plan a trip pretty much from scratch because there's a lot of people who ask me. It sounds really big-headed to say something like that, but a lot of people ask me how to go about it and how do you know what you want to do and stuff like that. So I'm going to go through everything. We are going to talk about attractions. We are going to talk about hotels. We are going to talk about food. We are going to talk about add-on experiences. We are going to talk about what even is a Disney World trip. We're probably even going to go right up until like the day. I'm going to make this kind of a series. I'm going to take you through different phases. We'll get a bit of like the theory done early on, and then closer to the time I'm going to talk you through more of the things that you'll do once you're actually booked and when you're in your like final countdown stages and you're really getting close. We got a lot to talk about. I also obviously want to cover anything that you're going to find useful. So if you have any questions or anything in particular you want me to cover or talk about, I want to hear from you. Make sure you leave me a comment so that I can help you out, okay? I will hopefully cover a lot of this, but there's just so many different things about Disney World. So chances are there's going to be some stuff that I miss or don't know a whole lot about, but I will take the time to figure all those things out for you if you want to let me know if there's anything you need to hear about. So Walt Disney World is one of the 6 Disney theme parks around the world. Walt Disney World is the one in Orlando, Florida, opened in 1971. It was the second of the Disney parks. So the first being Disneyland in California, and then they branched out and moved across the country and opened one in Orlando. It has 4 theme parks and 2 water parks. It also has 2 mini golf courses, a bunch of like full-size golf courses if that's something you care about. Disney itself operates a grand total, I'm pretty sure I have my number correct here, of 21 resorts in the area. So you have lots and lots of options. Now I'm going to go into so much detail in the next video about those. It is a world in itself. You've also got a few entertainment venues as well. You have Disney Springs, which is open to the general public as well. It's a non-ticketed venue. So it's your shopping, dining, entertainment. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a really nice spot. There's loads of great choices there. That's something else I'm definitely going to talk more about in one of the videos. You have then a smaller version of that kind of area, dining and retail and entertainment. It's Disney's Boardwalk, and that's kind of your Coney Island, like old world, like I kind of always think of the wharf in Bob's Burgers, even though like it's nicer than that. But it's that kind of like old pier type vibe. And they also have an ESPN complex. So one of Disney's subsidiaries is ESPN, which if you're unfamiliar, if you're not on that side of the world, it is a sports network based in America. And so they have just like a big entertainment activity plaza there, and you can go and I think you can actually watch sports games. I am absolutely not a sports person, so it has never been of any interest to me, but as far as I'm aware you can spectate sport and also participate in different fun and games and activities there as well. How do you get to Disney World? So if you're traveling by air, the closest airport is Orlando. MCO is their code. I have it off by heart because I'm constantly checking flights. I'm that person. It is about 20-30 minutes, obviously depending on traffic, time of day, that kind of thing, away from the resort. But that of course depends on your mode of transportation. So if you're driving direct, brilliant. If you are getting some sort of rideshare or transport, then you could take anything up to probably, I think at the longest it's taken me maybe 40-45 minutes, but that was in low traffic. That was just a coach with a number of stops. So obviously you can rent a car at the airport. You can do your own driving if you want. Remember, Americans drive on the right. We drive on the left in Ireland, and I don't know, a lot of other countries in Europe maybe, I don't know. But America, you drive on the right. So remember that if you are renting a car, and there's a bunch of lanes on their highways, and I just don't think I would ever be brave enough to take that on. So more power to you if that's you. If you want to just not have to deal with that stress, there are coach services. So Disney used to offer a complimentary resort airport transfer, but unfortunately they don't anymore ever since the COVID closures. They just got rid of that service. So the coach provider that they were working with to provide that service actually has branched out and provided their own. Now it's not complimentary, it is a ticketed option, but it is relatively inexpensive. It's about $16 per person each way. So not too bad considering ride shares would be a lot more than that. So when I say ride shares, like your Uber, your Lyft, those kind of things. I would definitely recommend that coach service. It's called Mears. I'll put their name or their website or whatever up here for you, MEAOS. So if you're from Ireland, the closest I can relate would be the air coach. So in the same way that that makes multiple stops on its way to or from the airport, this would be how the Mears coach would work. It would make multiple stops at the Disney resorts. So you don't have to like book a particular route. You just go to the driver. So when they pick you up, they say which resort are you going to, and you tell them. They have a list. So they might go to like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 resorts on the one route. So that can delay you depending on how many stops need to be made, how many people are getting on and off, and like luggage, because obviously they have to go and get the luggage from out underneath as well. So while it's a very reliable and inexpensive option, it is a slower option. And if you want to be more direct about it, you can of course get an Uber, a Lyft, a taxi, a limo. So you can of course obviously do all those direct routes if you want to, but you will pay a little bit more for those. Just in general about like Orlando and Florida itself, it is a very warm and humid climate, so you can get anywhere from like mid-20s to high 30s in the summer. In the winter it does get cold as well. I think people always want you to remember that. Don't expect it to be hot all year round. It is a spot that gets cold in the winter, not necessarily as cold as a lot of places. No snow or anything like that, but definitely coat weather. Can be as low as single digits some days, but I think it tends to average around like the teens. So it's usually kind of pleasant, but definitely can get chilly. It's an area very exposed to hurricanes based on where it is. So you can expect the hurricane season to be June to November, but there might potentially be events outside of that as well. So just bear that in mind, that it is an area that does get hit by some severe weather, and it rains a lot. It rains a lot of days, but the great thing is it's not usually the whole day of rain. It's usually just a quick, heavy shower, and then it's done, and you're back to blue skies and sunshine. But plan for rain. Make sure you have a raincoat or an umbrella or whatever, because while it's usually relatively predictable and quick enough that you could maybe just go for a meal or plan to be indoors at that time, it also can just kind of happen out of nowhere and you can be soaked. I've had that experience. It is not fun. Time zone, it is 5 hours behind GMT, so for me in Ireland, it is 5 hours behind me. It is obviously an English speaking area. It's the primary language. And you're also going to get a lot of Spanish as a secondary language there. You'll often hear safety announcements are done first in English and then in Spanish, just based on geographics, where it is. And I have a lot of Spanish speakers in the area. And your currency is, of course, US dollars. So now that we've talked about the boring stuff, let's talk about the actual theme parks. As I said, it has 4. It's a lot. Most parks usually only have 2. So the first of those 4 parks is number 1, Magic Kingdom, which is the initial park of the Disney World Resort. It was opened on the 1st of October 1971, which means it recently celebrated its 50th anniversary. I was there for it. It was beautiful, so good. It has a grand total of 24 rides. It's probably the park most closely associated with the idea of a Disney park, Disney World, Disneyland. It's the Castle Park, so the one where you walk down Main Street and you see this majestic castle ahead of you. You have your Main Street USA for your like old world kind of turn of the century America. Think of like Hello Dolly, that kind of vibe. You have your Fantasyland, which is probably again one of the more famous areas, which is where you're going to get your princesses, your fairies, those kinds of things. And you're going to have Liberty Square, which is old time America again. That's where you're going to find things like Haunted Mansion. You've got Tomorrowland, where you're going to find Space Mountain. That's like your kind of 50s idea of the future, you know, that sort of like retro future vibe. Frontierland for your Wild West, your Big Thunder Mountain. Adventureland for your jungle themes and your pirate themes. So like Jungle Cruise, Pirates of the Caribbean, even like Tiki Room for, you know, your kind of classic Tiki Bird song. I love it. I have a little light up bird in my garden who I've named for the Irish bird in Tiki Room. You're also gonna get your daily parades there and your nightly fireworks, of course weather dependent, but daily live entertainment. So a grand total of 11 years later, on the 1st of October 1982, the second park opened, that is Epcot. This one's one of my favorites because it's just such a lovely vibe there. The vibes. Beautiful. So you're going to recognize this one by the gigantic golf ball, as a lot of people call it. That's actually supposed to be a spaceship. It's called Spaceship Earth, and it actually houses an attraction telling you about the history of communication. It's voiced by Judi Dench. It's fabulous. It's also my phone wallpaper. Definitely a bit of an Epcot girly over here. This one is like an edutainment park, so it's less so now. It is actually leaning more towards the Disney IP, intellectual property. So initially it was very education forward, and now it is kind of phasing that a little bit out and more into the Disney theming itself. So you have a lovely blend right now of part IP and part edutainment. So it's got 3 main pavilions in the front section. It recently had a bit of a refurb. You got World Nature, that's where you're gonna have like your nature-based attractions. There's a Finding Nemo attraction there. There is also an aquarium in there as well, so that kind of vibe, like the world around you. There is World Celebration, which is kind of like almost the landing page for Epcot. It's sort of where you first come in. You've got a beautiful new statue of Walt Disney there. Actually only recently went in on his birthday. It's where you're going to get like some dining and retail options as well. A huge souvenir shop. And then the other one is World Discovery. So that's where you're going to have kind of more like the ideas of possibilities of the future and innovations and time and space and all that kind of thing. There's a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. It opened like a week after I got home from my last trip, so I've never ridden it, I've never seen it. It was hidden behind walls while I was there, but I hear it's fantastic. The fourth land of Epcot, which is probably the one more associated with it now these days, is World Showcase. That's my favorite part. This is where you're gonna have 11 different countries' pavilions. I've got them actually here just for interest. So in order going clockwise, this is a controversial topic. Lots of people argue on the internet about whether you should go clockwise or anti-clockwise around this, because it's all based in one big circle around a gigantic lagoon. So just because I'm starting clockwise in the list doesn't mean I'm joining in that argument, okay? I just want to put that out there. Do whatever the hell you want. So you've got Mexico, you've got Norway, you've got China, you've got Germany, Italy, and the American Adventure, because I don't think in America they wanted to just do an America pavilion. So it's like the American Adventure. I guess it's more like the history of America. Maybe not all of the history of America. Moving on. Then you have Japan, Morocco, France, and the United Kingdom and Canada. So a lot of fun things. Fun fact, actually, in the United Kingdom pavilion, some of these pavilions aren't strictly limited to what that particular country offers, and they do kind of blur the lines a little bit between countries surrounding it. So say, for example, in the United Kingdom, I was able to find my favorite chocolate brand, which is an Irish chocolate brand, Butler's, Butler's chocolate. They actually sell that in the United Kingdom pavilion, which is very fun, very cool to see it's gone all the way over there. So you will get some sort of influences from their surrounding countries as well. But for the most part, they're primarily showcasing food, cultures, entertainment, those kinds of things from those particular countries. And that is going to be kind of your main area for Disney's festivals. So the Epcot festivals, there's 4 every year. They're seasonal. So we start the year with Festival of the Arts, and then we move into Flower and Garden Festival, and then Food and Wine Festival, and then Festival of the Holidays to close out the year. So obviously, while that does spread throughout the entire park, the World Showcase is kind of your popular hub for those kinds of things, especially if you're looking to, say, eat and drink around the world, which is something you can do where you stop at each country and go to their festival booth and have some food or drinks from that country. I did it myself, great fun. I'll leave the video linked in the description box. You should check that out next. So they didn't wait 11 years to open the next park. They opened the next park on May 1st, 1989. And this one was Hollywood Studios. So back in the day when they opened it, it was definitely more movie themed than it is now. It is still, the idea is there that it's a movie themed park. But it was more of a kind of behind the scenes idea initially. And now it's more kind of, I guess, immersive. Say you've got your Toy Story Land, which is where your perspective is that you're the size of a toy and you're exploring Andy's backyard. And so he's built this like theme park in his backyard, and you're one of the toys visiting it and going on all the different rides he's constructed. It's beautifully designed. It's really good. It's always very crowded though, because it's so popular. And then you've got your Star Wars area, so that's called Galaxy's Edge. I'm very much kind of a Star Wars purist in that I've seen like the original 3, I've seen the prequels, and I think I've seen 2 out of 3 of the reboot of the trilogies. I'm not really into like the spin-off shows or anything like that. I just find there's so much I can't get into it, so I don't fully find that area immersive. I think you can enjoy the experience of it regardless of your knowledge of Star Wars or your enjoyment of Star Wars. You can still enjoy the area, but I think for the really, really diehard fans, you're gonna love it. You're gonna be in heaven, because there's gonna be so many details around the place from all the different franchises, the movies, the series. Everything's just gonna be like little nuggets and little Easter eggs for you to find. So that is going to be where you are going to be so happy. You've got like your old Hollywood style, so the Tower of Terror, which you might know as the very tall towering ride that you get into an elevator that's broken and you drop. I've never done it. I don't like the feeling of dropping, so I've actually never done it. I'm going to be brave next year, I think, and do it anyway, just because it's supposed to be so beautifully designed. The Imagineering is supposed to be so fantastic, and just one of those things that you kind of have to do it once. So I think I'm going to be brave. I'm going to put on my big brave girl pants and I'm going to do it. Why did I say pants on my YouTube? One of my favorite rides is there. It's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It's in their version of the Grauman's Chinese Theatre. There's also handprints. I'm going to talk so much about the different bits of each park in another video, just to give you an idea of the vibe. In the same way that outside the Chinese Theatre in Hollywood itself, that you've got celebrities' handprints, they have some of those at Hollywood Studios. They're all like Disney associated people, so they've got 3 out of the 4 Golden Girls there, which made me very happy. I am hand twins with Rue McClanahan. I know they have Steve Martin there, he's coming to mind. Rick Moranis, who is also a hand twin of mine. So that's Hollywood Studios. It's a really, really popular park. It's always very, very crowded, but there are some really fun things to do there. And on April 22nd of 1998, they opened their fourth and final park of Animal Kingdom. So this one is kind of part theme park and part animal conservation education center. You will see live animals there, which is pretty cool. There's a safaris attraction where you actually board a safari vehicle and drive around like this huge plot of land they have, and see them live, and the drivers tell you facts about the animals, and it's really interesting. And then there's also just like a few walking trails you can go on yourself that are shorter, and you just read the information yourself on plaques. And then there's also just like random habitats scattered throughout the park. So there's just like a random crocodile or alligator. There's a random large scary reptile in one of them. There's an anteater, and what else is there? There's loads of like just random things just hanging around. Oh, otters. There's otters there, and these cool tortoises. I think Galapagos tortoises, and so many cool things. So many cool things there. From like your attractions perspective, like your rides and stuff, you've got Pandora, which is an area themed to the James Cameron movie Avatar, The Big Blue People. That has one of my favorite rides ever, Flight of Passage. It's so cool, it's so innovative and really nicely designed. The technology is really cool, it's really fun. I don't care for Avatar really. Like I rewatched it recently and I appreciated it a little bit more than the first and only time I ever saw it, but still like not a huge fan. But you do not have to be. Similar with Galaxy's Edge, if you're not super into it or don't know a lot about it, just the sheer theming itself and storytelling is going to be so impressive that it doesn't matter. It's so cool. Then you've also got your Africa and Asia themed areas, again going to be themed towards those countries, those animals. And then lastly, you have Dinoland USA, which feels really random, but it's also really fun. Quick brief history is that it was a bunch of paleontology students on a dig, and they just kind of set up like a fun fair sort of area. There's banging tunes playing all the time there, and like a couple of fairground rides and stuff like that. It's really random, but when you know what the point of it is, you can really appreciate it and see how much fun it is. So in that area, you're going to get one of the thrill rides of this park. So that's Dinosaur. So basically you're going on like a hunt. You travel back in time. Okay, you travel back in time, and you have to find a particular kind of dinosaur and bring it back to the future with you. And it's really fun. And then Expedition Everest as well, that's another really fun one. That's a big roller coaster, like with a big drop and everything. You go backwards in the dark. It's so trippy. I love it. So much fun. So you've got your big thrills there, but then you've also got like your just strolling around looking at an anteater. It's very much best of both worlds, you know? Oh, and the food there, impeccable, because you've got all of these different cultural influences, and it's so delicious. It's amazing how, like, say Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are kind of the big ride parks. Their food isn't great. It's fine when you know where to look. I'm going to talk about this more, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But then say like Epcot and Animal Kingdom aren't particularly big ride parks, and their food is fantastic. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Okay, next thing I want to talk to you about is transport. So how you're going to get around the actual Disney area itself. So Disney offers complimentary transport around its property. So that's to all guests. You don't have to be a resort guest. You are going to have better access to it as a resort guest, but it is there and ready and available to anybody visiting the park. Or, you know, say if you wanted to go from Disney Springs to a resort, say you had drinks in one place and dinner in the next. You can still do that. So all of the routes are served by buses. So all the resort to parks to Disney Springs, all of those are served by buses. And then you have add-ons after that. So not every resort has an additional mode, but a lot of them do. Especially if it's a more expensive resort, that's where you're going to see an extra perk, is that you have different options for transportation. You've got the Skyliner. So that's an in-air gondola system. It's actually really fun. I love it. It's really quick, it's really efficient. And that can take you to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. And it stops at Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach Resort, and the Riviera Resort. So if you're staying in any of those, it's so easy to get to Epcot or Hollywood Studios. I personally stayed in the Caribbean Beach Resort last time I was there, so I was able to get the Skyliner anywhere, anywhere on that list that I fancied, and it was so handy. Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to explain how convenient and pleasant it is. And then you have your monorail, which is kind of one of these like classic icons of a Disney park. So that's like a looping route, and it goes, I'm reading my notes. So that goes from Magic Kingdom around to the Contemporary Resort, the Polynesian Resort, the Grand Floridian Resort, and then back around again. So you're also going to have a stop in there to the Transportation and Ticket Center, the TTC, which is basically where you have to park if you drive to Magic Kingdom. So if you were to drive your rented car, or if you were a local, you park at the TTC and then you hop on a monorail and around you go. And then it also can go from there to Epcot. And that's kind of the only route that it serves on the Epcot side of things. But the Magic Kingdom, you get the few neighboring resorts, which is quite handy if you're, again, if you're staying in one of those resorts, very quick and easy to get in and out of Magic Kingdom. Or if you're in Magic Kingdom and you want to go to one of those resorts for dinner, drinks, whatever, hop on the monorail. So handy. And then pretty much any resort that's on the water in any way is served by a boat. So you can have, say, in that Magic Kingdom area, there is a big lagoon, big lake. So those resorts on the lake will take you by boat to Magic Kingdom if you want. That's why they're the most expensive, because if you're keeping track, that is bus, monorail, and boat, all to the most popular park. Some resorts are very near Disney Springs on the water. So say the Port Orleans resorts, you can get a boat from those to Disney Springs. Epcot is near a lot of water as well. So you have some adjoining hotels connected by boats. Pretty much all the destinations can be connected by boat in one way or another, but it just depends on your origin. So when it comes to the Skyliner and the boats, I'm not fully sure on the monorail. I think it's a little bit more hardy than those, but the Skyliner and boats will stop operating if there is adverse weather. So bear that in mind. They are weather permitting. It tends to take kind of quite bad weather for them to stop running, just obviously for your own safety. They're not going to put you up in a gondola if there's like gale force winds and it's a hurricane blowing out there. So bear that in mind. If you do have adverse weather, it is going to be buses only, probably. So last thing to tell you about would be some nearby attractions. So outside of the Disney bubble, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on these, partly because I haven't seen a lot of them, so I don't have first-hand experience. But then also just, it would be a whole other thing to go into detail on a bunch of other different locations in Orlando. So just to give you a brief rundown, your kind of primary nearby location, a lot of people will blend these two trips together, would be Universal Studios Orlando. What you'll find is a lot of people might go on a Disney trip and then take a little excursion to Universal for a couple of days, or vice versa. They usually often go hand in hand. So at Universal Orlando, you have 2 theme parks and 1 water park. And then there is also a 3rd theme park currently under construction called Epic Universe that is set to open next year, 2025. So depending on when it opens, I might be able to go. So in your like base Universal Studios park, you're going to get like your classic, again, the kind of movie theme park style. You've also got like one half of the Harry Potter universe, so Diagon Alley is there. You can board the Hogwarts Express from Diagon Alley to travel to the other park, which I'll talk about more in a second, but you do have to have a particular kind of ticket for that. You've also got a lot of Minions and Despicable Me stuff going on there, if that's of interest to you or your party. I've heard some of the Minions stuff that reopened recently is very good. Your other park is Islands of Adventure, so that's your bigger kind of thrill park. That is where you have Hogsmeade, so like the Hogwarts area of Harry Potter. So you can get your Hogwarts Express between those two locations, but you do have to have a universal ticket that allows you to visit both parks in one day. So that is a higher price ticket. You can do one park per day at a lower cost, but you won't be able to take the Hogwarts Express because it does deliver you right into a new park. More thrill focused, you've got the Hogsmeade stuff. You've got a lot of Marvel stuff, because actually on that side of the world, Universal actually still holds theme park rights to Marvel. So that's why you don't see it really in Disney World, but you do in Disneyland. It's just a whole rights agreement that they struck up. So a lot of Marvel stuff there, and it's real like classic comic book style. You've got Seuss Landing, so that's all the Dr. Seuss themed things. That's very cute actually, and it's quite peaceful to have a little wander around and sit in, but it is very like kid focused. So for the youngins who the big thrill rides aren't suitable for, that's a great spot for them. The water park is Volcano Bay. I haven't been, but I do hear it is more thrill focused. The Epic Universe that's currently under construction actually sounds fantastic. I'm really excited. I hope it does open in time for me to go. So you're going to get a third installment of the Harry Potter area. This is going to be the Ministry of Magic. I don't know a whole lot about it. They haven't released lots of information yet, but we do know that. You're going to have Super Nintendo World, which will be so good. How to Train Your Dragon is going to be featured, which is so cool. I think like, I know it's a very popular series, but I also feel like it's very underhyped and underrepresented. So that's going to be very cool to see that kind of thing featured. You're going to have Dark Universe. So Universal is actually credited with the creation of a lot of your classic monsters, your classic like movie monsters like Creature from the Black Lagoon and scary things that I don't watch. So Dark Universe is going to be the land kind of focusing and showcasing those things. So that could be really cool as well. Universal do go very hard with their scariness. They have Halloween Horror Nights, which looks terrifying, and I don't think I will ever go. Even though I love Halloween, these are my Halloween years, but I like spooky Halloween. I like Disney Halloween. I don't do haunted houses. So there's a little bit of trepidation around Dark Universe. I hope it's going to be kind of fun for all the family. And not too scary, because I in theory like a lot of that stuff, but I don't like being scared. So like a nice balance is good for me. Thank you. So their dining and entertainment and retail area is called Universal City Walk. So you've got stuff like Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. You have fantastic Mexican food at a place called Antojitos. Oh, you have a place I really want to go that I had heard wasn't good, so I didn't go when I was there. But then I've since heard from a more reliable source that it is actually very good. So somewhere I definitely want to try next time I'm over there is Toothsome Chocolate Emporium. I love chocolate. This is a whole restaurant themed to chocolate. So while it's not necessarily in every dish, it's brought into a lot of their main dishes, their desserts, even their cocktails. There's like a chocolate old fashioned that I really want to try. I suppose we'll wait and see. Also, actually, I wasn't too impressed by Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. I like the idea. I love the concept. I am very much all for being 5 o'clock somewhere, but the food was not great, and the margaritas, I don't remember them. They're forgettable, and not because I had too many. Just in general, like, I don't know, I feel like I have a very high standard for those kinds of things. I also make a pretty banging margarita myself, so you know, to pay like, I don't know, $15 or something stupid for a margarita when I can make a really nice one myself, I think my bar is going to be really high. But I wasn't a fan of that place, and the person who told me that the Chocolate Emporium isn't nice told me that Jimmy Buffett's is good. Anyway, that's a little rundown of those. If you want me to cover more, let me know. Leave me a comment, because as I say, I'm just like, if I'm covering Disney World in as much detail as I am, to cover Universal in the same level of detail would be a lot more difficult. So just let me know if it's something you really want, and I can look into it more for you. I might throw in a video into the series about it, but for now, just that little recap for you, that little summary. Hopefully that'll get you started at least. SeaWorld is another theme park in the area. I myself haven't been, so can't really talk about it much, but that is going to have your marine animal edutainment, the shows and stuff like that, if that's your cup of tea. And then also much bigger thrill rides. I think that's kind of well known for being a big thrill park. iDrive, as in International Drive, is like a big strip essentially, that's got all your outside of the theme park bubble kinds of things, like normal restaurants and normal bars and normal entertainment. And they've got like escape rooms, they've got like outlet shopping, so all those kinds of things. If you needed a day off, if you needed to not be in the Disney bubble or the Universal bubble, you could just hit up iDrive for a day and just hang out there, some shopping, get some like regular entertainment in. But to be honest, I'm not flying across an ocean to hang out on iDrive for a day. I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure it's fun. I do see some things there that I would be interested in doing, but at the same time, I've come here for Disney. So we've come to the end of this little intro video. The next video in the series, we're going to talk about your accommodation options, and from there, how you can get a sense of at least your starting point for a budget. Obviously, there's so many other things to factor in, like your travel, your food, your spending money, all those things come into it as well. But I feel like your biggest chunk is going to go towards your accommodation. So that's going to at least give you a ballpark of your baseline, where you're going to be aiming for as your baseline, and what's available to you in those different brackets as well, because obviously there's going to be a massive variety in figures there. So I'm going to go into a lot more detail about that in the next video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you have not, and ring your notification bell so that you get notified when that video goes live. As I've mentioned in the video, make sure you comment down below if there's anything you need me to cover, okay? Any questions, any topics, drop them down below. I want to hear. If you liked this video, or you're just looking to support the channel, a thumbs up goes a long way, and share the video with anybody you feel might need to know some stuff about Disney World or be interested in this kind of thing. Thank you for watching. I'll see you for the next installment, and be good, be a good human. That's a weird thing to say, but I mean, I feel like people need the reminder. Bye. I'm in a great mood, actually. I feel like everything's kind of hitting right. The lighting's good. Touch wood, Jesus. Whose hair is that? Oh, it's mine. Nothing worse than a hair in your mouth. Oh, it's a horrible feeling. Oh God, it was really in there. That's the after gags. They're just, oh, someone's gonna make that sound dirty, aren't they? The boat with the big turny thing on the back. Oh my God, my brain is just like, I'm in a great mood, but my brain is not here. Maybe that's why I'm in a great mood.